Thank you for joining us for another edition of ParlayPeople. Today is September 25th, 2019. We are glad to be here, and we are only one day away from many days of football ahead of us. Got a lot of games to jam in, got a great show, so we're going to jump right into it. Right now, we've been riding this team here and there. Wisconsin, I like over 45. They're versus Northwestern. Northwestern is not an offensive gem. We could probably cover this spread alone with Wisconsin by themselves. Look for Wisconsin to be scoring in the mid 40s, maybe high 40s. But look, of course, Northwestern to put up at least, I would hope, 7 points, maybe even 10. We all know what happened last week. Wisconsin definitely came through. They smacked Michigan around. Look for the same offensive push that they've been bringing all year long, being that they've outscored their opponents by over 100 so far. In that game, also, I like Wisconsin minus 24. As mentioned, I see them scoring over 40 points, with Northwestern probably not scoring more than 10 to 13. So just do the math. You have a good, safe bet there. I like Wisconsin to cover minus 24. Up next, we have Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a heartbreak last week, but they did cover. We had them plus 14.5. I like that game. I like the minus 11.5. It may be rising. You might have it at 12. Virginia is ranked 18th, but don't get mistaken. They beat Florida State. They beat Old Dominion. They don't really have a great impressive offense, but yes, they are ranked 18th. But I think that's based on default, being that the conference they're in makes them ranked 18th when you start your season off 4-0. I think that Notre Dame has a lot to prove. They still need to come back. They're still not eliminated from the playoffs as much as people would say. I think they still have a great chance, especially where the rankings first came out. But look to them to, I think, have a revenge game. They should have beat Georgia. They really came close. Thanks for covering the spread. Vegas had it way off at 14.5. It was close all game long. But Notre Dame comes out. It's going to be sloppy, a lot of rain projected, but I still think Notre Dame puts their nose down and just runs the ball, and Virginia's probably not going to squeak much out, I think, offensively, being that they only put up 28 against Old Dominion. Next up, we have Clemson, minus 26 versus North Carolina. Clemson's been kicking ass. They've been scoring a lot. Their defense is stellar. North Carolina, they started off great. They're kind of fizzling out a little bit. I think their offense is not going to put up many points. I think Clemson's going to, probably win that game by 30. Look for them to hopefully come out, maybe up 21 or so in the first or second quarter, and then put it away in the second half. Next up, we have Troy versus Arkansas State, over 64. Both teams can score. I like both teams. We've put them on overs before. So look for them again to bring us some more success. Over 60 is where it's currently at. Next up, we have SMU. For many years, if you've known me and my friends and other people that I've given picks out to, we usually always bet against SMU. It's a different year. It's a different team. I like SMU, minus 7.5. They beat TCU last week. TCU is not the same caliber that they've always been, but they're still TCU, still at home as well. Scoring 41 points against that team is no easy task and very impressive. They're going to be at South Florida. If you've seen, of course, we bet Wisconsin week 1 against South Florida. They kicked ass. They outscored them 49-0. Then we also took Wake Forest, I believe it was, or Georgia Tech. I couldn't remember, one of the two. But they also handled business on South Florida. So look for South Florida to not show up even at home. SMU's on fire. I have them beating South Florida by double digits. Next up, we have Stanford at Oregon State, under 58.5 points. If you followed last week, just in general, I didn't have this game. I didn't advise on this game. But if you watch all the games like I do, you would have saw that Stanford held Oregon, who some people project their quarterback to be the number 1 pick, or at least, top 3, top 5, to 21 points. It was the game in total last week, only generated, I think, 27 points. It was 21-6. So Stanford might have their defense back. Their offense is still not back. I think that hopefully they can run the ball a lot, get some long drives, a lot of field goals. Oregon State has put up points. Don't get me wrong, but they tend to get their ass kicked. They hopefully will not show up. I think under 58 is a safe bet based on just the stats alone, but we'll see how that rolls out. I'm definitely riding Stanford under 58. I already put money down on that. Next up, we have Louisiana Tech -8 at Rice. Louisiana Tech covered last week. They've been doing pretty good for Louisiana Tech standards. Rice is no gem. They've probably have one of the worst rated defenses, one of the worst rated offenses going into the season. They've lived up to those expectations, and let's look for that to continue. So La Tech -8. I also like in that game over 49. So Rice ain't going to be shut out. Louisiana Tech will score some points. Look for them to reach the 30 mark. Rice to follow up with that, but still La Tech wins by double digits as well as it goes over 49. Next up, this is a Friday night game. Penn State at Maryland under 62 points. If you look at just the stats, both teams are scoring a lot of points. But if you look at their last game, Penn State did not show up. They looked like shit against Pitt. They lost us money on that one. But hey, it is what it is. We're going to hopefully that offensive struggle continues somewhat, being that I still also like Penn State -6 in that game. But Maryland, if you followed to start the season, scored 130 plus points in their first two games. Since then, they scored 17 points at Temple. Not a great offensive performance versus a team that is not a spectacular defense. Good mentality on defense, but still no true stars that are going to be shutting you out like they did when it comes to only scoring 17 points against a team like that. On the other side, Penn State as well has only held their team or their opponents to 30 points. Very impressive. Pitt is a good offensive team to hold them to what they did, and as well as just the other teams combined, 30 total points in 3 games. I like the under in that game of 62 points. It has been rising. I liked it at 60 and a half. It's now at 62. So maybe sit and watch. Maybe it goes up a little bit more, or maybe jump on it now. But I still like it regardless, as well as -6. Next up, we have the Ohio State at Nebraska, over 67. Nebraska has been giving up points left and right. Everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid on that team. We weren't. I bet against them probably every single week, as well as took in the over-unders on their games. Either way, they've been paying out. I like also Ohio State. They've been paying out as well for us. So look for that to be a lot of points. Ohio State is going to put up in the high 40s. I don't see them maybe hitting 50, but I do see it over 40. Nebraska's going to score. They're at home. They'll have the crowd. They'll have some of the refs, a little bit of help with that, some home calls. But look for that game to go over 67. I also like Ohio State -17. Nebraska, this is a big game for them. This is a determining game for them. But I still don't see them getting out of it. I think the Big Ten has some real two powerhouses when it comes to Wisconsin and Ohio State. I think everybody else in that division is fighting for third. It's pretty clear cut who's going to be the Big Ten champions in that and play for the Big Ten championship when it comes to the end of the season, which will be Ohio State and Wisconsin. We'll look for that to maybe be very exciting in the beginning, but a lot of points. That's what we're shooting for, and Ohio State to kick their ass. Next up, we have Colorado State +24 at Utah State. I like Utah State. We've won money on Utah State, including last week. It was one of our top picks. They took care of business at San Diego State. Didn't score that many points. Didn't really impress on the offensive stand. San Diego State has a good defense. What I like mainly in this game is Colorado State is averaging 35 points a game. And that's not against just some scrubs, against some teams that have some good powerhouses, some big boys. Colorado State, look for them to keep it close. Last year it was 29-24. Utah State was something probably even a better team last year. They're still great this year, but 29-24, very close. 24 points, I think is way too much, especially for a team that can actually put up some points. So look for Colorado State 24 to keep it relatively close when it comes to 24. They're not going to win the game. They're not going to, pull out a miracle in that regard, but they will, I think, lose by less than 24 easily. Up next, we have Boston College versus Wake Forest, under 71.5. We've touched Wake Forest a lot this year. I like to touch them again this year when it comes to the this week. Boston College is a good defensive team sometimes. I think at home they might be able to put up a little bit of a struggle. Wake Forest is having one of their best starts ever, so they're going to come in trying to look to continue that success. Their offense can hit you either way. Hopefully it's a lot of running. Hopefully there's a lot of drives with some field goals and some stops. Definitely going to be some points with what Vegas and everybody's predicting. I definitely think that the game's going to be in the 60s as well, but I do not see it eclipsing over 71.5. So look for Wake Forest to keep that under. I also might touch the 6. I'm debating on that. Stay tuned for the podcast later if we do another one in the week, or at least just follow us on Instagram at ParlayPeople. Find us there. I do send out picks through sometimes right before Saturday or Friday nights. Next up, we talked about this earlier, said there was going to be a lot of points. Troy -6 versus Arkansas State. Both teams can score. We look to Troy to definitely get some points done. They're going to be at home. I still think that they're very good offense. Their defense is actually pretty good too. Sometimes they can hold a team. I think Arkansas State is no offensive gem as well. So we'll see how that goes. Troy -6. Next up, we have Stanford -4 at Oregon State. Last year they beat them 48-17. We also remember have the under in that game. Stanford -4, I think, comes out. They're 1-3. This is not Stanford-like. They have a tough schedule to start the season. Oregon State's 1-3, I believe, or 1-2, right where they're supposed to be. They suck. I think Stanford comes out. They get their shit together. They play Stanford football. They run the ball. They put some long drives together, and I think they beat Oregon State by 4 points easily. Last game for now, as mentioned for now, follow us on ParlayPeople or subscribe to the podcast so you get the latest and greatest updated picks before lines change or before the game start, of course, so you can be in tune. I've been hitting over 65%, 66%, for the year. Look for that to continue. And also got some NFL for you as well. But last game for now is Appalachia State versus Coastal Carolina, under 60. Appalachia State is going to score some points in this game. I think that they will eclipse 30 points, but they will win the game. Coastal Carolina is a team that, has scored some points, but at the same time against relative people to mention, including even Kansas, who is not the best team. As we all know, Kansas is great on college basketball, but when it comes to football, no bueno. They scored 12 points versus Kansas at Kansas. So this game again is on the road. Coastal Carolina gets smacked around. The spread is 16.5. I don't think I'm going to touch that, but Appalachia State should win this game easily and keep it under 60 points. But you never know. Stay tuned. I might have a pick for you on that as well. I still need to check out some injury reports as well as some weather reports and get back to you guys. But that is it for college football right now. Let's keep the momentum going. Ride the bets. If you have questions, email me, message us, do whatever you got to do. We'll definitely get back to you as soon as possible, especially if you get to us before the games start. In the NFL, we have the Kansas City Chiefs -6.5 at Detroit. Detroit is off to a good start. If you have Detroit friends, they're probably saying, yeah, we're undefeated, 2 undefeated teams. Yes, you're undefeated, but you had a tie. So, your 2 wins, one of which they didn't really come out and tear it up too much. They beat the Chargers 13-10. Defense looked okay. Offense didn't look great. Same thing last week. They got a win. But if you looked at it, It was a lot of lucky breaks, a lot of turnovers, a lot of good field position. The offense didn't muster up, I think, even 300 yards. The running game is nothing to brag about. So I think the Chiefs offense will put up 30 plus. Don't look for Detroit to match their offense. I think Kansas City gets the job done. 6.5, I think, is a gimme. I'd probably take it at 8 or 9. But take it at 6.5 now. And let's keep that Chief train going. Next up, we have, which I think is probably the game of the week. A lot of people are excited about this, especially Bills Nation. Probably one of the best fan bases. I'm not a Bills fan. Definitely have it on the bucket list to go watch a Bills game and tailgate with those crazy individuals. Always fun. Check the YouTube videos out. I know that they minimize some of their craziness. A lot of the wrestling and chairs and smashing and just breaking things on people's heads, I think, is a little bit minimized, but still a great time, it seems like. But look for the New England Patriots to continue their momentum, continue their dominance, to continue their greatness. -7 at Buffalo. Last week, if you bet the Patriots, I didn't. We did it the week before when they played Miami. Loved it, killed it. I didn't touch it last week. I thought that the Jets were going to bring some more offensive power. Still, they didn't score a touchdown. Both touchdowns, both on the special team and defense were the touchdowns, breaking people's backs when it comes to you guys betting on that. Look for the Patriots defense to continue their dominance. Buffalo is off to the best start in probably decades since they lost 3 straight Super Bowls. But I think that they get reality coming soon to them. And look for the Patriots to continue their dominance, as mentioned. -7, I think, is easy to cover, especially for a team that hasn't given up a defensive touchdown. Next up, Dallas Cowboys -2.5 at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints last week pulled off a great win. Again, though, if you looked at the box score and really studied it, the offense wasn't too impressive. They had under 300 yards. They had 2 touchdowns on the special teams and defense as well. So technically, they only scored 19 points offensively. I think Bridgewater, is a good backup. He used to have a great career, in Minnesota. I think that Dallas can bring it. Their defense is solid. Their offense is clicking. I think that 2.5 is a good line. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of revenge. Last year, Cowboys beat them as well. So I think that Dallas continues that again, smacks them around, wins by about 5 to 6 points, and go Cowboys. That concludes our picks. This probably won't be our last for the week. Stay tuned for more. We have a lot to give. Definitely want to give you the picks before they change. And thank you again for your subscription and your time. Good luck to you, and keep following if you want the best results. And don't waste your money on any of those bums giving you false advertising and also just bad picks. Thanks again. Have a good week.